Hi, and welcome to Muhammad Bana's podcast. It's the 22nd of August, 2022. Today's sponsors for today's podcast is two companies, Global Institute of Wealth and Toilet Paper Hands. Today's guest is Randy Kujawa. Randy is a specialist in cryptocurrency, blockchain, education, and NFTs and gaming and edutech. So Randy, welcome. How are you doing?
Awesome. Thanks for having us on. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing brilliant. How's things in Panama City?
It's good. It's every day. It's hot. Every day it's nice. It's good. Panama, I came here a couple of years ago and I never left. I just fell in love with the place. It was good. It's just a fantastic country. You get a bit of everything when you're in the city. There's 4 million people within like 10 square miles. And then you go out in the country and it's like you're back in 1980 and no one's ever visited there. So you really get the best of both worlds. So it's, Panama's where I call home. I love it. Born and raised in Canada. And yeah, just a resident here now. And I love it. It's great. Every day in Panama is great. How are you?
I'm well. So is there this nomadic lifestyle thing happening where people are moving out of their hometown and working in other places like all around the world? You moving, do you find it easy to work just from a laptop and having your equipment?
Well, I guess a story about myself. I may as well kind of give you a little bit of background of kind of how and why I'm here and the tale of events.
Go for it. I'd love to hear everybody's journeys. That's the most interesting part of the podcast.
So I was born in Saskatchewan. It was in the middle of Canada. I was born in a very, very small town. There was about 700 people in my whole town.
Right.
We had the big graduating class. There were 17 kids in my class. We were like the big class. So, I kind of had this small town growing up, and I worked on the farm. I was an only child. And back in the 2000s, oil was really starting to take off. Oil was really a thing. So unless I wasn't really pulled to education. I didn't really enjoy school. It wasn't for me. When I'm there, I'm like, I don't know if this is really it. So when I graduated, I went directly to the oil patch. That's what you did. So unless you were really I want to be a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, or I want to do this special thing, you just went and worked in the oil patch. And it was good on that. I spent the majority of 2 decades working in oil and gas. I worked internationally for the last about 4 or 5 years. Did a lot of stuff over in Eastern Europe. I was working down in Colombia, and oil and gas was a good career. It was good. It was paying the bills. It was kind of, there was hot times. You know what I mean? Everything works in cycles, right? It's boom or bust.
Take us a bit into it. I love to hear everyone's journey. What exactly were you doing? Were you in sales? Were you?
No, I was out on the drilling rig, drilling holes in the ground. So I was out on the drilling
proper rigs. Hardcore stuff.
Yeah, that's what I did, and I loved it. It was good, and I spent probably about 12 or 13 years working as a derrick hand. So my job, I was mixing mud, and so I was in control of the pumps and fluid system. So when you're drilling a hole, you got to pump the fluid down to get the solids out, to clean the hole out, to put the casing, yada yada yada. And I loved it. I really, really did. It was. I always say it's always going to be in my blood. Part of me is always going to like going out there. And in the winter, when it was really, really busy, it was freezing cold. So there was all those minus 30, 40, minus 50 days. Those are the days when you're the busiest, because when the ground is hard, it's the easiest to work and drill in. So normally when it's summertime, that's kind of when every time. But when wintertime, when everyone's getting inside and bundling up, that's when we're full out. So it was good. I like hard work. There was something about going home and your hands are so sore, you can't even close them, and your body's beat up. It feels good. It was gratifying. But I was working in Colombia, and it was in 2020. I was finishing up a stint, and some of my really, really good friends built a resort in Panama. They built a beautiful boutique resort called Show Pony Beach Resorts, and I came to visit them, and I was like, this place is amazing. And then COVID lockdown came. Everything happened and we all got shut down. So I'm like, cool. I'm stuck with my best friends at a beautiful boutique resort. I have 20 miles of private beach and I can go surfing every day.
Hey, you're making me jealous now.
It was good and bad. Don't get me wrong. Being in the middle of nowhere surfing, it seems fantastic. after a couple weeks, you're like, not that it gets boring, but you can only do it so many times. I can only surf so much during the day. Then I'm like, now what am I going to do? And this 15-day curve turned into 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. You know, we all know the story, but we don't need to get into that story. But at that time, being the fact that I'd worked my way up in the oil and gas career, and it was good in the industry, I mean, but oil was trading at negative dollars a barrel. No one was flying. I was working internationally, and I was like, am I ever going to go to work again? Like, is there ever going to be a job for me in this industry? I really didn't know. And as humans, we normally don't change unless we get put into an adaptation response. In an adaptation response, we're put under pressure, we're put under stress, we're put under trauma, and we're forced to adapt. We're forced to pivot. So during the time in lockdown, I had a lot of time to research. And while I was not good at school, I do like learning. I love learning. I just like learning about stuff that was
I know exactly
important to me.
Self-learning is just awesome, you know.
It's absolutely great. If I'm excited about something, I will learn everything I can about that topic. Like I was into fitness, and I was competing for a bodybuilding show, and I ended up reading like 10,000 pages just on just like when it comes to so I became a personal trainer, but I read everything on periodization, on like getting into like the deep dive into the cellular level of how to, because I want to understand. If I'm gonna do something, I want to understand everything about it. So during lockdown, I started watching YouTube. I'm not a big TV guy. I'm not a big movie guy. I've never bought Netflix. It's just not my thing. But I started watching Real Vision. I started listening to Mark Moss. Started listening to Raoul Paul. Started listening to George Gammon, Rebel Capitalist. I started hearing some of these Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad radio show. Started listening to some pretty smart people in the industry. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, when you peel that curtain back and you start to understand, and here's another thing too. At 38 years old, believe it or not, you guys are going to think I'm crazy. I never understood that money devalued. I thought that if I go and work in oil and gas and I get my paycheck and it goes into my bank account, that's mine. And it's always going to, I had no idea that
about
money
the purchasing power.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And, that it was alarming. And I'm like, oh, wow. Huh. Okay. So
that here in South Africa, every time we went to the bank to take out Forex to travel overseas from a young age, I mean, if we went overseas, or I came to America when I was 8 years old, okay, and I went to London, okay, a shoe was 100 pounds, but it was 500 Rand in conversion, okay. And then a few years later, you go, and the same Nike Jordans or whatever the shoe was in the same store was still 100 pounds, but now it's 800 Rand because the exchange rate for us, okay?
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is over time, it went to 1,200 and 1,700 and then 2,000. So we saw our currency devaluing a lot, okay? And people in Nigeria see that daily. People in Venezuela see that daily. But what I found is when I started speaking about Bitcoin and inflation to someone in Europe, someone in Portugal in particular, they just thought, oh, anything with Forex and crypto is a scam, okay? And the reason is when you earn euros or dollars and then you travel internally in Europe or you travel internally in America, you always just, you never exchanging your money for another currency. So you receive $1, you spend $1. And that to me was the difference between us in other countries and people in America or Canada or Europe. So you can carry on with the conversation, but didn't you see the value of cars or something like property going up or?
Yeah. So, I never really traveled a lot. Like I spent the majority of my life working, and I was a workaholic. I loved it. You know what I mean? Anytime I can get out on a rig, go there, just work. And that was how I lived my life. So I didn't really travel a whole lot. So I didn't go and exchange currency. I didn't go into the US a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't really do it. So So my dollar, I was just like, cool. I had money in my bank account. And when I went to go buy something, I knew I had money in my account. And I didn't put thought into it.
But you're
right?
not alone. I think there's billions of people like that. Most of the world doesn't think that.
100%. And, and the alarming thing is so in this like self-discoveries kind of, you open the veil and you go down the rabbit hole and you're like, oh, wow. You're like, this is interesting. And at 38 years old, I had no idea what money is. And then you start listening to guys like Robert Breedlove and, what is money? And then you really get into it and you're like, oh, and then it really starts to pique your interest more. And you're like, okay, well, wait a minute. They're like, lots of people are really good at making money. People can make money, but a lot of people, like, no one teaches people how to manage money. No one teaches people how to budget. Like, people say go out and earn money, and a lot of people are really good at that. Like the Tom Bilyeu, the guy that made Quest Nutrition Bars, Impact Theory, probably one of my favorite podcasters. One of my people I look up to, Gary Vaynerchuk and Tom Bilyeu. The guy built $1 billion business, Quest Nutrition Bars, from his kitchen table. And he is like, in one of his podcasts, I don't know, it probably would be about a year ago now. He's like, in the podcast, he goes, as of 8 months ago, I literally thought the bank, the government had this big bag of money. Like, he goes, and if anyone puts any weight into thinking I, done some successful things, I built $1 billion business, I built this empire. He goes, I had no idea. I was ignorant to the fact that I could make money, but I knew nothing about money. And then he goes, when you start to learn. So it doesn't matter if you're a rig hand from Canada, you're just some person that's just living their normal life, you're some billionaire. I think a lot of people are unaware of what the story of money is. Now, when I was younger, my grandfather always used to say, Randy, it's not the amount of money you make, it's the amount of money you save that's going to matter in life. Now, that was okay in his era. In his era, saving money was the way, right? You literally save money and it was fine. But if we look at money like a game, right? Money's a game. And there's only one rule to the game. Your money's devaluing. So if you know the rule of the game, you know how you're probably going to have a chance to win the game. So if you're like, okay, if I know my money's devaluing, I'm going to either A, spend it today to get better value for what I need, or I got to invest the money to have it worth more for me in the future. But if I don't know the rules of the game, I'm going to take my grandfather's advice and I'm going to save my money. And 1 in 2 Americans don't even have an investable asset, and they don't have more than $1,000 put away for a rainy day. Now, does this mean they're unintelligent? Not at all. Does it mean they're not willing to learn? No, it's just the lack of education is astronomical. Like 70% of the globe is financially illiterate. And what I mean by financially illiterate is they just simply don't know what the money game is. And that's okay. So billionaires are admitting on their shows, I had no idea. And they're billionaires. I bet you, like, we start to scale down. It's crazy. Like, why are we not talking about this in school? I bet you talk to your children about, you seem like a pretty intelligent guy from our chats. You seem a lot like me. You seem kind of high energy. You seem to want to just like peel the curtain open and deep dive. How do you approach to teach your kids about what's going on?
Yeah. Now, look, I've been on a similar journey. I went and I listened to podcasts in lockdown. I was like, listen, everyone else was in the kitchen making TikToks and cooking and watching Netflix. I was freaking out. I was like, what the hell's going on in the world? This is a once in 100-year pandemic. Something's going to give in. It's not the norm. It's not the everyday. So I first said, okay, my grandfather and father used to talk about gold. So let's buy some gold, okay? And it did nothing. It actually went down, okay? And then I was like, okay, let me look, what are the millionaires or billionaires or the hedge fund managers or, and a similar thing, started listening to podcasts. And, there's a joke in my family that YouTube has no more videos to recommend to me. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I like
because I watch so much YouTube till 3, 4 in the morning on topics like this. So I used to play sports when I was young. I've done cycle races. I've played sports for my school. But
Mhm.
I can't see myself watching football for hours at night because it's just not helping me, right? So I don't watch any sports, but I want to learn. So then I went and I said, what's the best universities in the world? And I came across MIT, which I knew. Okay, so MIT is ranked sometimes 1, 2, or 3 in the world. Okay,
Mhm.
and I did an online cryptocurrency course at MIT. And it cost an arm and a leg, but was one of the best investments I made at 40 years old, going back to studying. And the first module that we did in the cryptocurrency course was, what is money? Okay. And it was brilliant. And it teaches you about the characteristics of money, where money started,
Mhm.
how people used to use beads as money or pearls as money and rhinestones as money, and how these weren't transferable or they weren't verifiable. And it just blows your mind. You know what I'm talking about, okay?
Yeah.
And from there, it led to the next thing, and we went down this whole rabbit hole in the course. But I actually did this, let's say, the research the year before on my own. The only reason I went to do the course was to legitimize what I know, okay, and get
Yeah.
certified.
Yeah.
Because your own research, you want to know if you're missing anything. Long story
Yeah.
short, fast forward 2 years later, I had the experience of being in the crypto market. Now I had the education. And I said, look, let me open a consulting company focusing just on ultra high net worth individuals and family offices in the world,
Mhm.
because there's family offices with huge amount of wealth, but the people working in these family offices have not gone to study what is money, and they don't understand the characteristics of money. So yes, they're controlling money. They've made money over
Mhm.
generations, but who's going to introduce them why Bitcoin is there and why cryptocurrencies exist and what's the difference between a DAO and DApp and smart
Yeah.
contracts and all these kind of things. So that's where we are. So we formed Global Institute of Wealth, focusing on family offices. I'm just sharing this with you. And
Yep.
target audience is family offices in America or in the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa. We're not focusing at all on South African clients because it's just we're following where the mindset is and where the money is. And we want to share, I mean, for the first time, I think, ever in human history, can we sit in one country, have a Zoom call almost live, it is live, with you in
Yeah.
Panama, and
Mhm.
we don't need to have any customers on the African continent right now. Okay. Not to say we don't want any, but I'm just saying we want to push the boundaries. We want to see how far we can go using technology. So
Mhm.
I refuse to have anything that's not in the cloud. So we've closed our physical office. So it
Mhm.
forced us to, we make investments. We've invested in Apple laptops. We've
Mhm.
invested in the Microsoft, Office system where we have shared drives. We've invested heavily in apps and technologies, like even on the marketing side, if it's
Yeah.
Shutterstock, if it's Canva, and this is all new for me. Trust me, there's no blueprint to follow. There's no family members to look at, or you can't go sit with your uncle and say, how do I is Canva better than this, or should I use Shutterstock?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's amazing because, like example, on Zoom, even though you can use Zoom for free, we pay for the premium version to have unlimited time. Imagine the call cutting off after 40 minutes,
Yeah, it does. You have to if we're working remotely or in the crypto space, you have to be able to have long conversations. Like our call probably would be cut off here in about 5 minutes, and we have to restart. And so, but simple like things like this, they're tools. And I really like what you're saying about with your audience. You have a market you're trying to go, and I really like also how you went to go verify the information you have and to make sure that number one, you didn't miss anything, but then you have a certificate, right? So you feel that education is extremely important. Education is everything. I feel that education is extremely important. And the reason why I feel extreme education, because I didn't know anything. At 40 years, 38 years old, I'm 40 now. So in the last 2 years, my whole world's changed. I left the oil and gas industry and I focused full-time on crypto. And I actually joined this crypto community, and the universe works in really interesting, really magical ways. I'm a really big believer in visualization, manifestation, and like I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I meditate for an hour, and I really have a very disciplined routine. And sometimes the universe just throws people in your life that are meant to be there at the time. So in this crypto community, I met this guy named Olin. Olin's a gem. Him and I are just, we right clicked, right from the pretty much our first like live Zoom face-to-face call. I'm like, this guy's awesome. Like I need to know more about this guy. So through the crypto community, we became friends. And he was working on this project. So he has 20 years in penny stock trading. He was working in mortgages, and he was in a stock trading group, and he was kind of a story, and I'm gonna repeat the story. So this was around the time of like where Wall Street Bets was going on. So he was in one group, and his buddy's saying buy this stock. So he's like, okay, cool. So he goes and buys it. And then in another group, he's saying sell. And he's like, dude, like, why are you telling me to buy in one chat and saying sell in the other one? Like, like, why are you doing that? Like, so he basically would just get him to buy. So
this is a real story. Really happened.
Yeah, this is the origin of toilet paper hands. So he was like, okay, so he's like, more or less, you got me to buy it and you sold on me. Like, why would you do that? So when Wall Street Bets was going on really big, this is when like diamond hands and paper hands and, all these terminology, YOLO and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, dude, you don't even have paper hands. You got like toilet paper hands. And so he went on 99 Designs. And he found this guy, and so he got these characters behind me made, and he got these assets. So he got this little toilet paper hands, and he was going to get T-shirts, and he was just going to get the assets put on T-shirts and give them to the guy and be like, "Hey, man, here you got toilet paper hands." It was more like a joke than anything, and it was also too when COVID was going on and the big toilet paper crisis. So it was kind of like everything. Kind of, the world was going crazy. World was going crazy over toilet paper, and so he had all these assets, but his son was also 5 at the time. He's 6 now. So he was working on a stock trading course. And for his group, he was in his groups, and, a very smart individual, very successful in many, many things throughout his life. And so people look up to him for information. So he's like, hey, why don't I make the stock trading course? But then his kid was like, Dad, I want to be like you. Like, how am I going to be like Dad? And he was like, well, why don't I take these fun assets, like these little things behind me, and why don't I break down my stock trading course and make it digestible for everybody? Why don't I just make it easy for all ages? So at the time when he was kind of starting to do this, him and I were chatting, and I agree that education is absolutely important. Like when we're talking about like these fundamental pillars of what we're learning in school, why is nobody talking about money? We're talking about like fractional division. Like my stepson the other day, he's like, how do I fractionally divide? And I'm like, I had a YouTube, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, these things, like I don't know how to remember to do fraction, whole fractional division, but you YouTube and you're like, okay, cool. And, I've been pretty good at memorizing stuff. And so I was like, okay, but I was like, all of the stuff I used in school, I don't use now. And we got a telephone now. If I need to know something, if you're using Alexa, you're like, Alexa, what is this? And Alexa gives you the right answer. So why are we logging years and years of our lives as children memorizing stuff when it's at the touch of our hand? And I say this, and maybe this is just Randy Kujawa's personal opinion, I think we need a great educational reset. I think we need to say, okay, stop. Everything that's going on, we need to stop, because we have all the information. We have more information that's ever been had in the world. Accessible. We have it in the touch of our hand.
I feel the same way. I feel never before at a push of a button can we access anything we want to know. Okay. And it's just, so this is the saying I've got. Knowledge, it's like, it's the desire to learn. It's the desire to learn that's missing. It's not access to information is there. Okay, the saying will come to me. Okay, it's the desire to learn that needs to be in everyone. And if you have the desire to learn, you can search on Google for anything.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can watch a YouTube video on anything. And yeah, so no one has the excuse not to know things nowadays.
No, but the reason, okay, let's go and say, hey, I want to learn about money, and I'm going to try to figure this out. I Google, what is money? It's a wild topic, and it is so broad. There's so many sources, and I'm not going to lie, it's really boring.
Okay,
it is like
I get you.
Yeah,
I get you. So what you guys are doing is you're making it more fun, but at the same time, I think what we're trying to do, because our name also has institute in it, Global Institute of Wealth. An institute could be wisdom, knowledge. Okay, it's learning. An institute is a place you learn, and that was our thing. So you've got it. What you got on your side, it's a similar principle where we're feeling there's an educational gap. There's a knowledge element missing in the community.
There's an educational gap.
Right.
There's no gap there. It's just not there. It's missing.
It's missing. It's missing.
It's just completely.
Like, you know, I say to myself, okay, I've been in business also for many years, you know, from the age of 23. There's certain things that if they just told us in school, we'd have made life so much easier. Okay.
Yeah, but I bet you didn't. Maybe you knew this or maybe you're not. Back when factories were created, they realized that if they went and they put somebody at a factory station, they went ding, and they rang a bell, and they moved to another station, and they moved to another station throughout the day, they were more productive than keeping them at the same station. Well, so what happened when this factory model, how to turn a human into a working machine, they thought they're going to implement this into the schools. This is why school has a bell. Ding! Okay, next station. They took a factory worker mentality and tried to implement it in the school, where these young, supple, you know, minds that have all this potential, they're trying to turn them into a robot.
Right.
And we're waking up to that. And that's crazy. So when we got this, like, let's try to turn these people to system.
Tell us now, where are we now? And what are we going to, where to from now with toilet paper hands? What's it targeting?
So what we have here is we understand that right now 70% of people are taking some form of their education on a digital device.
Yes,
like
agreed.
45% of people are doing certificates like online. Everyone's going to e-learning. So if we're talking about money, let's go. Let's pull open go read a Wikipedia. It's boring, boof, done. Don't want to learn about it. Unless you're a weirdo like me. Like, I love the weird, dry information. I would go take the MIT thing just because I want to do it, because I like that. I'm one of those weirdos. But most people aren't like me. Most people want something very simple. They want it digestible, and they want it fun, and it has to be engaging. And we have a very, very short attention span. I can sit and do something for 12, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for 2 years in a row.
People have no attention span nowadays.
Yeah,
like 2 minutes. Like
exactly.
goldfish.
Yeah, exactly. So because not everyone's a weirdo like me, and that's great. I love how everyone's individual. So what we did is, when Alden was creating this, he's like, okay, let's break this. So each season has 16 episodes. So each episode is 12 minutes long. Now, are we going to teach anything in 12 minutes? No. You cannot teach anything in 12 minutes. Not anything worth any value. But what you can do during the 12-minute episode is you can spark the thought process of getting you to think about a topic. Now, if you're like, okay, so this episode we started to talk about inflation. This topic we started to talk about yada 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 yada. Each thing's a little bit different, right? So when you can say, okay, and also too, this is how most people get into crypto. Their friend calls, yo, bro, I'm making a lot of money. Are you in crypto? What's crypto? Dude, I'll help you set up this wallet. I'm going to help you buy this thing, and it's going to go up, and we're going to be rich because I'm smart. I have a little bit of money, and it turned into a lot of money. That's the crypto bro mentality. Most people rolled into crypto like that. And that's, people are like, okay, cool. I got into my Zoom because my crypto bro, I watched him turn a little bit of money into a lot of money. And I was like, cool. So when he got me in at the time, things were going up. And I turned a little bit of money into a lot of money too, very easily. And I thought I was one of the smartest people, because I was like, oh, my couple $100 turned to a couple thousand, my couple thousand turned into more. And well, what was missing? We got in with no education. We didn't understand what was going on. So when the crypto bro, everything's going up, he's the smartest dude ever. When things go down, it's economic conditions. You can't be smart when things are going up, and you can't say it's economic conditions. Either you're smart or you got lucky, and most people got lucky. Why? Because the bank was printing money. The bank was throwing liquidity, or the Fed was throwing liquidity into the market. Everybody was smart. Nobody was. You could just go like this. You could just go and 5x your money. Welcome to crypto for like about a year and a half. It ain't like that. So during this downtime, the importance of education, we need to step back. So what is toilet paper hands? Let's just get into this. Let's talk. So if you're going to learn something, you want to learn probably not by getting wrecked yourself, right? So I FOMO'd into a couple things. I've had some rug pulls. I've had some like crazy things happen. I've made some money. I've lost some money. That's just happened. But I had to learn on my own. Nobody taught me, right? You just run into it and you're like, now what? But if we can take Flush in his journey, and he's in Tradesville, and we got this storyline, and we're watching Flush evolve from being this guy that's just trying to make it in life. He's just at his office. He doesn't like his job. He's struggling, and he just wants to have a better life. So he goes, meets Mr. Gaines. Mr. Gaines teaches him about just the fundamentals, how to do your homework, due diligence, patience. There's this whole story. So if you can watch Flush in his journey, making all of the mistakes that we would make, it is inevitable. If you go into crypto and you think, I'm going to go and read an article, I'm going to follow a YouTube thing, and I'm not going to get wrecked, or I'm not going to have some crazy mistakes, you're insane. So why not learn through others' mistakes? And why not have that other person's mistakes being a cartoon character? So you're like, okay, cool, wow. So imagine if Simpsons was 31 years of very relevant educational content on entrepreneurship, on leadership, on something like this, right? What if we had a running animation series that really punched home good value, made you really think, made you deep dive, made you be a better human, made everything. So this is what we want to do, is we want to be able to say, let's take this story, Tradesville. Tradesville is, every building in Tradesville is a business opportunity. Let's take a look at the business. Is it profitable? Where is the location? Would this be a good investment? We're also, because if we're trying to, help educate the youth, we're also having healthy habits. So what we're going to do is we're even going to go into health. We're going to talk about what healthy habits to make you a better person. Because if you have a healthy habits, you have healthy routines, maybe you're doing the gym and you're meditating and stuff, or maybe you understand the importance of breathing and you're about to go into a big trade. You take that little bit of time, you take a couple deep breaths, you regulate, you calm down your parasympathetic nervous system, and then you have a proper thought out. Or you're like, green candle buy. Green candle sends off dopamine. That means buy. It's just like it's like a drug. And then red candle is pain. And our brain runs on.
That's why I know someone that's actually, I have someone that does trading with me. Okay. We got a group. He looks at the charts in black and white.
My charts are blue, purple, and my volume is all pink and everything. I took green and red out. It's this weird thing where it just triggers in your brain. You see red. So I flipped it around. I had my reds going up and my greens going down, but then I just put it blues and purples, and I put it about the same. So it's all the same. And
make a difference.
So it makes a massive difference, because our brain just sees green. It's like, and then red's like, oh, it's just breaks.
Amazing. The psychology is so amazing.
It is a psychology. And trust me, toilet paper hands is not going to go teach you how to be a professional technical analysis trainer. That is not what we're about.
We're about fundamental analysis. So we're just experience.
Yeah, just more or less about how to just be simple and smart. And then how are people going to learn? You're like, okay, cool. I watched your episode. I think it's fantastic. It's great. Now you go and you log into our learning management system. The University of Florida uses it. The University of Michigan, Tony Robbins uses LearnDash. LearnDash is an interactive e-learning management system. So what we are going to do is now, our first episode, we're kind of, if you go to watch it, you would have to be an intermediate experience kind of trader to understand, because we talk about shorting. In the first episode, he gets shorted. So like, if, we're talking about shorting, we're a little far ahead. So what we've done is there's there's one course and there's 6 lessons. And what we want to do is we want to be able to bring people up to speed on what is money, what are all these steps, because if we don't educate and we don't get people to that point, it's going to be hard for them to follow. So what we're going to do is we want to make our learning different. We want to be able to say, okay, we're going to have it's going to be on a whiteboard doodly, and we're going to have a storyline. So we're going to be able to, whoever's watching, to learn what is money, it's going to be following a storyline. So as you're watching a story, you can relate to it. You can see there's visuals. It's not just paragraphs, text bodies, try to memorize, answer a quiz. What we're going to do is going to follow a story. And at the end of the story, there's going to be a test. And if you get to achieve a certain level of financial, you get a certificate at the end. But what we want to do is we're with the project called Niftify. Niftify is some amazing technology. But what we're going to do is that everybody that achieves a certain level and passes a quiz is going to get an immutable record stamped on the blockchain that they've achieved that. So
this is like an NFT, Niftify.
Now you're going to get an NFT verifying that you have achieved that.
So that's awesome.
And there's, Niftify is super cool technology. So it allows it so where you can more or less just take any Web 2 and plug it right into Web 3. It's KYC compliant, does your taxes, has custodial wallets. It has an integrated marketplace to map into what your branding is. So when people go to log in, it's just going to be like, all they need is an email address and 2FA, and they're going to be able to plug and play. And there's going to be marketplaces. So there's going to be NFTs that are going to say, okay, they're going to have no value other than it's going to be a record. But now there's going to be other NFTs that have different values. So with companies like Niftify, it's going to make it really, really easy to be able to people to have kind of that transition, because this is a traditional business model, right? It's an education service. So we're going to have free education, getting you to a point. And then beyond that point, if people really want to deep dive and get further, then it's going to be a subscription-based model. So, but having people that when they get an NFT, then it's going to also make them think kind of what is an NFT? They're going to look, they're going to deep dive into that. So we're having Web3 implications. We're using Web3 tech, but it's not a Web3 company. We're not a layer one.
What age groups will you be targeting?
Right now, what we do is probably like 14 to 18-year-olds, so that's where this is. But let's be real, 38 years old, no idea of money, lost purchasing power. So it doesn't matter if I'm 14 or 18 or 38 or 58. Probably everyone's going to benefit from this. And as the storyline's changing, as things are evolving, you're going to be able to follow the storyline. So it's going to be ever changing. So while, number one, this is for everybody. I believe everyone in this whole financial education should be for high-end private schools in a certain section of the US. And I think I don't believe that should be correct. I believe financial education should be a human right, not a first world privilege, right? So I think this whole so what we want to do is we actually have a partnership with the United Nations, the MProtect division. MProtect, it was a program created by Harvard and MIT. And what it does is it teaches people kind of what is an entrepreneur, how to be a real entrepreneur within you. So it's a division of the UN. And we have a partnership with them that we said, hey, listen, if they saw value in what we had, they understand the value of global education. So they said, hey, listen, the countries that simply can't afford this, we'll help donate. We'll donate because we want people to be able to use and benefit from this service, right? This is literally just about trying to change the world through education. I believe if you live your life in service to others, your end goal value is just to bring value to the world, the universe is going to take care of you, right? You work out. So everyone's like, they have their goals. I need to do this, this, and this. Well, you know what? The universe will take care of that. Whatever that is, if you're helping others, the universe and the world will just help you. You don't know how it's going to work out, but it always does. But if you're living with one end goal, I'm trying to do this to achieve this, and that end goal is really not for the benefit of the planet, you're probably going to run into a lot of hardships in the way, and it probably won't work out. That's just how the universe works. So what we want to do is we want everyone to have access to this. And the thing is if so ideally what we would like to do is to be able to start to get into private school systems here in Latam. So we're going to launch this in English and Spanish at the same time. And that's on our roadmap. That's our plan, because Latam is very, very crypto friendly. Latam is very open to the conversation. Latam needs this. Like, some places in the US, they might not be at that point yet. But right now, you get to go into Venezuela and Argentina and, people, these are conversations. Obviously, El Salvador, like, you're talking about some of these areas, like, just talk about cryptocurrency is a conversation that is welcome, right? So if we can start to go and help, and maybe people want to get into private school systems, maybe people want to start to learn on their own, and we start to branch out there. But if the kids are starting to learn about this and the kids are having fun with this, then it's probably going to make the parents want to learn. And I personally believe this. So somebody's like, you hear some people talking, I don't want to talk to my kids about money. I don't know. They're young. Just let them have fun. I don't think we shouldn't talk to them about money. I think they don't want to talk to them about money because they don't know about money. Like, how are they going to try to educate their kids when most people don't understand themselves? And that's okay, because we weren't taught it. I
think it stems from, a thing where people were made to believe that to have money is evil. Okay. And it's like saying someone has a lot of food, they're evil. No, you need to know what to eat. Everyone has to eat. You were gymming. Actually, I also started training daily at gym, and you'll end up eating more because you're burning more calories. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're eating, looking at your calorie intake, you're eating more protein, you're having more egg whites, you're making smarter choices because you realize a Coke is not good. It's got so much sugar. You're making smarter choices. Okay. And that is where people need, and unfortunately, as you're saying, it all comes down to education and experience. Okay. So if you have like a pilot, imagine a pilot flying and he doesn't know how much fuel he got left. He doesn't know what altitude he is on. Okay. That information helps him make cleverer decisions, smarter decisions. Okay. So people need to realize, if you learn, and just like how you're talking about, you only learned now what is money. Okay. Like me, we did this course, in the last year or two. I only started realizing about calorie intake on food and how to read. To me, I used to just go in the kitchen and eat. Now that you start gymming and the trainer explains to you, hey, listen, this is what you need to do. You now burn 500 calories in this gym. And you know what? You need to go and have so many egg whites, but leave out the yolks because the yolks have cholesterol. And so you start understanding, you're becoming educated. Okay. And like that pilot, I'm saying, people need to realize that if you teach a child financial literacy, it does not mean you become evil and you become greedy and you become, are you seeing what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, because here's the thing too. So I really like where you're going with this conversation, because people are like, well, if I talk to them, like, number one, if I had to break it down to say what's the important thing to talk to a kid about is, number one, they need to understand what is money. They need to understand the value of going out and earning money, right? Because I think the value of going to earn something, if I work, whether it's shoveling snow as a kid, cutting grass, whether it's doing stuff, if I go work and I get paid $1 or $2, I have a value. I'm like, okay, cool. So they need to understand the value.
There's a journey in the process. There's a journey. You're teaching the child the journey.
But they also, I think what a lot of people really need to do is, there's this scarcity mindset and there's an abundance mindset. So somebody's like, okay, well, I have $100 and that's mine and I can't ever let it go. And they have this real weird, it's like they're telling the universe, this is all there is and there's no more money. But I think when people live in an abundance mindset, you know, it's that if you have $100 and you see somebody, you know, that's asking for money, give them $5. Who cares, right? Maybe they really need it at that point. But when you kind of like relax to the universe and understand that money is it's like a river. It's always flowing. It's always moving. It just doesn't stop and sit. It flows. And if you let it out, it'll come back. You let it out, it'll come back. And we need to live in an abundance mindset. So if you teach people, and I say, and I've had money and I've been super broke. And both times I was happy because I just realized that money's like, while it's not a thing, it is a thing, but it's not real. Your mindset behind everything, you can have no money and be super happy. Now, while it does make some of the pressures in life easier, if you don't have to worry about, can I make my rent? Can I buy healthy food to feed my body? Do I have that underlying pressure? If you have enough money to take care of your needs, you have all you need. The rest of the stuff, invest, but be generous. People I don't think are generous enough. And this is this whole like, it's mine, it's money, and I got to keep it, and I got to hoard it, and I got to have more, give me more money, and I'm going to put it, and I'm not going to share it. I think we need to live in this, like, teach kids it's okay to be generous. It's okay to give and receive, because, and this is a thing, and this money's evil. No, money's not evil. Money is like, it's everything. Well, it's a stupid piece of paper or coin or value or whatever you want to call it. It's an important thing for life. It buys food. It takes care of your shelter. You need it, but you also don't need to hoard it, be weird with it, and get greedy with it, because that's where the problem comes. So I think if we just get this mentality around, let's talk about it. Let's talk about why it's important, but let's talk about why we should keep it moving, why we should be kind to others. Like, I think we don't put enough weight on being a kind human being. And, you know, people got this, I got money and I can't, like, it's mine.
Don't you find it interesting that most Bitcoiners have a charitable mindset or a sharing mindset
I think most people that are achieving a certain level, they all have it. You know, their success leaves habits and stuff like this. So, like, you know, people that have done pretty good things in life, they probably have some form of healthy eating. They probably have some form of exercise. They probably journal. They probably educate. They probably donate. They probably volunteer. There's, the thing is, absolutely, for sure. Journal, books, you know, this is just what it is. But
Mike.
No, but it's this like, we're hardwired. We are hardwired to volunteer and to be good people. So what we want to do is, and I know we kind of got off a little bit of a tangent.
No,
but
it's fine. Listen, I always say, if there's just you and me on the podcast, I don't care about even if we got 0 listeners. It's about you learning and me learning from each other. Okay. And
totally.
That to me is the biggest benefit, because it's like me going to a coffee shop in a new city every day. Okay. And I love to travel. Okay. I love to travel, but not about the fancy hotel. It's to meet new people in new cultures. Okay. And I've been telling people this week, like just yesterday, I was like, did you ever think 2 years ago I'd be having a talk to someone in Panama? No, this is crazy. And it's so much fun. It's 3 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, but here I am talking to my friend in Panama. Okay.
I like how yesterday you're like, oh, I don't want to do the podcast, it's getting late. I'm like, oh, for me, I'm like, 8 p.m. to me is like late because I start my day at 3 or 4. And you're like, I start my day early too. And I'm like, oh, big shock. I'm like, you and I are very similar. We probably have similar habits. We wake up early. We probably exercise. We probably read. We do these things, and that's okay. And there's a lot of people like that. So I really think so. I guess when it comes to our project, kind of where we're at, I should kind of rein this in a little bit. Well, I should. I can talk for a few hours, and I know people's attention spans. I know probably there's going to be 4 people that'll watch this, and that's okay. I'm having a great talk.
No, we will get about 100. We'll get more.
Yeah, but no. So the thing is, so with toilet paper hands, what we want to do is we're going to be launching probably within a month. What we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, here, log in, sign up, and take our free courses. So here's our free course. We're gonna walk you through the basics of financial literacy. We're gonna have the education and the storyline. We're gonna have it gamified. We're hopefully have the NFT, everything all implemented so that when you're done, you receive the certificate. This is all on the plan, it's all on the roadmap, and see what it is. And we're gonna have our first 12-minute episode ready for you to watch. So if you're like, okay, you see this, then there's going to be also investment opportunities. So we funded the project to get to this point so far, and we're going to say, okay, listen, if you think this is great, you think the courses are great, and this is for anyone listening, what we're going to do is we're going to open up another round of funding, because what we do is when, year 1, year 2, we need to get funding for the next phases to get all the animations done. Well, we want everyone to be able to see, test, drive the car, feel the car, see what they like.
Give you feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We need to show something. So this is why we haven't been really going out and saying, hey, listen, we're going to do massive funding rounds. We wanted to be able to do it more of like the traditional way, get it to a point, get it working. In crypto, it's this weird mentality. If you got this white paper, you got this idea, all these VCs and all these big investors want to get in, but they don't actually care about the project. They're like, so if you go and self-fund, you get it to a point, you're like, well, you're already too far along. And it's like this weird, like, white paper investing, and they want to be able to get in, and then they want to be able to sell to other VCs, and they just want to be able to do that and kind of hop to other projects. So we did it the other way. We're like, okay, we're going to self-fund this thing. We're going to have it. Now we want to be able to have the public, like, well, we want to be able to have everyone an opportunity like this, because the education sector is a massive, the e-learning and education is a major industry that's going to be exploding over the next 3 to 5 years, like exploding. In the last 3 years, got 900% growth, 900% growth in e-learning. So
where did you get that figure from? I mean, like, obviously you found it somewhere, but is it like a stat that you checked?
Yeah. I don't have the link on me right now, but what it is, I shared a long form article with you. We wrote a Medium article, and yeah, it's like almost 300% growth year over year.
Wow.
In e-learning, it's massive. Because why? What happened in the last 2 years between me and you?
Everyone was at home. Yes.
I was working on an oil rig. I got shut down at a beach. I couldn't surf for 12 hours a day. I had to learn. So I went online and I started e-learning.
That's
like
what we all did.
Everybody else is.
You're right.
And
we all did that.
And everyone's learning that's the new way. So the education
and it's so much more cost effective, better for time, like you can do it in the comfort of your own time. And it's awesome.
It's where everything's going. So does the world need another layer 1 and another thing that's going to, that's cool. But in my personal opinion, lots of these big solutions are, 5-10 years early. Like, be able to have like some of these things, it's going to be 10 years.
The way to see, this is just something now, just popping in my mind, whether it's related, not right. When you look at the extreme scenario of anything, then you see the effect. But if something's like, if I'm stealing 1 cent from your account, you're not going to notice. Correct. No. But if I'm stealing $1 million at a time, you're going to see it. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, people don't understand inflation until you live in Venezuela and there's 470% inflation. Okay. And I feel that the countries with the worst inflation are going to notice Bitcoin or crypto or the benefits of this whole blockchain.
They're going to have to. They're going to be forced into an adaptation.
But they're already there. They're already there. Okay, so hence El Salvador's president being woke. This is the thing. Don't you feel like you said about the game? Okay, like you said, hey, when you understand how money works. Now we're going totally off, and follow me on this, okay? So I was having a barbecue and some guys came over, and you get talking, and the guy's like, oh no, they're giving you their opinion, but without educating themselves. Okay. And they're giving you this opinion on crypto. And I said to the guy, hold on, you know what? This is not like going from soccer to football or baseball or something. It's like, imagine in school days, some guys are playing football, and then these youngsters are playing Star Trek or Star Wars on this side with sword fightings. It's like a whole different game. Okay. You can't compare the traditional money market, the way you understand fiat and that, to what's happening on this side. Okay.
No.
Whether you catch on or not, this is the part where you become woke. When you step back and you zoom out, and there's that unagi moment, you know, this unagi, the meeting of the minds. Okay. I don't know if you heard that saying before. Okay. Where if I'm in a restaurant and you and I, we see someone doing something silly, we don't even have to say a word. We look at each other. We know what we're thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
That's like the unagi moment. It's like you on one end of the world, I'm on this side. We just have the same thoughts that, hold on, there's something going on here, and you become woke. And the joke was, that's what happened to Michael Saylor in like August, September, when he's just like, hold on, what's going on here? Okay.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's happened to a lot of people in 2020 that discovered it. Okay. And,
absolutely.
And he himself said, when you have this woke moment, he was living in anxiety, like he didn't want to even sleep in the night, thinking that, what if everyone buys Bitcoin tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah.
It was so funny the way he explains it. He's like, when it clicked in his head, he's like, I don't have enough. Okay. And I found it very humorous. So I think when you understand how money works, and you then understand what Bitcoin does and the other cryptos and where this blockchain thing and that, it's like you start feeling, oh, everyone around me, it's like this Matrix, you know, like the Matrix movie.
Yeah.
Like, have I just been unplugged? You know, I'm unplugged from everyone around me. Okay. And everyone's in this Matrix, like robots, going to work, coming home, going to factories, coming home, going to schools, coming home. And they don't, once you feel you're unplugged, you're like, oh, okay, this is the system. The Matrix movie fits in so well with Bitcoin. I promise you. If you go watch Matrix 1, 2, and 3, and on Twitter, like Lynn Alden, do you follow Lynn Alden?
Yeah, for sure. All those names
Now, isn't that amazing? You in Panama, I'm in Durban, South Africa. We follow the same person. It's like,
because YouTube has no more videos to suggest we watch.
So Lynn Alden, right? She said the best documentary of the 21st century is the Matrix movie. It's not a movie. It's a documentary.
It's a documentary for sure, and it fits within many things in life. And I think, okay, so this is just my personal opinion. I like this conversation. Now, while Max Kaiser is wild and crazy and his predictions, and Michael Saylor's, I really think, and this is just Randy Kujawa's personal opinion, I think it's like your body fighting. It's like an internal fight. Like, I don't think it's helping the economy to say that, you know, having plan B, I will never buy Ethereum because, well, sorry, but Ethereum is like revolutionizing Ethereum and smart contracts are revolutionizing the world on a scale. Now, while everyone has, and maybe it's like a religion thing. It's like this ism. It's like you have your Bitcoinism and your ism.
Are you a maxi or a?
I think that maxi mentality is toxic. Like I've been a vegan activist for 7 years. I watched a video one day called Earthlings, and I watched it and I was like, what I saw, and I used to hunt, I used to fish, I grew up on a farm, and I used to trap and all that kind of stuff, but I watched the scale of what was going on, and this was 6.5 years ago, and I never ate meat, fish, dairy, nothing again. And I was like so shocked. And this was like when I opened the curtain to the monetary system, I was in anxiety. I was in like, what is going on? Just like the veganism thing. But I think just like these extremist vegans. I can't eat at a table if somebody's eating meat beside me. Well, that's weird. You're not helping the movement. I think we need to embrace it. Everyone's at a different stage, right? And somebody might think that crypto Web3 gaming is going to help mass adoption. And that can be true. I think that the extreme Bitcoin thing, I think that can be true. I think we need to take all things into account, that Ethereum, that crypto gaming might be the catalyst to help global adoption, because 1 in 4 people in the world play video games. I don't play video games. I haven't played video games since I was like 9 years old, and that's okay. I'm different, but a lot of people do. And if somebody can just go and play a game, and now they're into crypto, now they got a wallet, now they're understanding, now they're going to find Bitcoin. I think this, like, it's not Bitcoin, it's crap. And I think that's not helping the industry. I think we need to embrace everything. We need to embrace gaming. Gaming is huge. We need to embrace the technology. We need to understand digital identities are going to be a thing of the future. You're going to be able to store your credentials. Education certificates, that if I get my education certificate from a university, it's stamped on the blockchain, and that it's immutable. It can't be taken away from me. If my government changes in my country, they can't take my education. Blockchain technology is changing the world. Now, how somebody got there, and I'm just saying, just like the veganism thing, it doesn't matter if somebody got there because of health, doesn't somebody got there because of the environment, because of the animal. Everything helps the end cause. And I think the gaming, the education, the tech, the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, the polygons, all of that is helping the ecosystem. If we want global adoption, we got to work together. And it is, Max Kaiser's screaming and going lunacy and burning money at Bitcoin conventions. I think that's kind of crazy. And then just
so I'll tell you how I see it. Obviously, every
but
week.
Would you not say we got to work together, like, as a whole industry? We all got to help each other.
So here's my take. Okay, is that Bitcoin does have its role to play in the monetary system, in a store of value, whether you call it digital property or digital gold. There's different names for it, okay? And what has happened, okay, I'll use this example I used the other day. Just let's imagine that Apple invented the laptop, okay? So here's a company that came out with this thing called a laptop. And now these other guys, Dell and Hewlett-Packard or Samsung, go and say, let's strip this laptop and look what's inside of it. And they find a thing called a hard drive and a battery. And then they take that and they use this hard drive to make a cell phone. Okay. And the cell phone has a different purpose, but it has a hard drive also, a memory also. Okay. So what I'm saying is Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008 invented Bitcoin for a purpose, for a specific purpose. And in the Genesis block, the first block, there was a hidden message. If you read the message, it's so clear why he created it, because the message said, Feds bail out the banks again. It was the Times headlines on that date in 2008. Right. Bitcoin gets launched to the world. It stays at zero for a few years. Okay. It had no value at all. And he sent the first transaction to Hal Finney, another coder. So all these geeks are sending, Bitcoin to each another, tens of thousands. They were sending literally 10,000 Bitcoin at a time, 20,000, but it had no value. And then slowly, very, very slowly, someone gave it some value, okay? 1 cent, 2 cents, 3 cents. And that's where that old story of someone saying, hey, I got 10,000 Bitcoin. Does anyone want to deliver me 2 pizzas or something like that? Okay. This guy gave the 2 pizzas. You know what? Oh, I don't want to be that guy, but at that time in your life, imagine like today, you tell me, hey, I'll let you stay 2-3 weeks in my hotel. Give me a Bitcoin or whatever, a month or 2 months, whatever it is. Okay. In 10 years time, we're going to kick ourselves for doing anything with our Bitcoin. Okay. But that's Bitcoin. And I'm saying to you, people then looked at the blockchain technology that it was built on. Okay.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin's got 21 million coins. It's got a certain characteristics. It got a halving schedule, whatnot. They took the blockchain and said, wow, this is a debit and a credit ledger. Okay. And it's a block that gets made. I know you know all this, but just follow me on this, right? And this is where this technology is brilliant, that we could use it for other purposes besides what Bitcoin was created for. So I'm saying imagine Hewlett-Packard, HP, they take out something from an Apple laptop and say, we're going to make a whole new item with it, okay? And that's simply what they dream, okay? People are going to use it in the health industry to keep your health records. People are going to use it in governments to keep your title deeds for properties. And that's where smart contracts come. Without the blockchain, smart contracts cannot exist.
Well, exactly. Like,
okay. So what I'm saying to you is that when you talk about Michael Saylor and Max Kaiser, these guys are just looking at the store value, okay? And Raoul Pal was one of the first guys that say, hey guys, look at this other entire market where the money's flowing. Now, let's see if I can play you something, okay? And sure, we normally don't do this on a podcast, but let's try it, okay? I'm going to find something, because if I play it for you, it has more of an effect, okay?
Yeah. Well, Max Kaiser at the Bitcoin convention, he was like, unless you're 150%, he's like Max Kaiser, he's like Michael Saylor's 100%, or 125. You need to be 150. Like, you need to sell your house, you need to leverage. And I'm like, I'm like, that's some wild info, you guys. Like, I think we need to like step her back a little, boys. Yeah. Like, I understand the value, but most people don't have, you know, all these multiple streams. They don't have billion-dollar businesses. They can't just say, hey, Q, you know, if you're already a billionaire and you put $1 billion into crypto, you started as a billionaire. You can probably breathe for a few years. But some of these people entering into the space need to understand to chill out. They need to understand what is some of the tech and how to be smart with it. Like, I think we need to slow this space down. We need to be like, dude, here's how much money you make. Here's how much your life costs. You got a little bit extra, put it away, try to put it into an investment, find out a smart play. If you only got $100, don't buy 10 coins at $10 each and expect you're going to make something. Find something really good. Say, I'm going to look at the team. I'm going to look at the fundamentals. I'm going to look where it's at. And if I got $100, I'll put $100 on something.
But also the time frame. I think people need to realize that time in the market is better than timing the market. Okay.
Yeah, time in the market. This is it. So we talk about the value of finding something good and holding. Just buy it and hold it.
Flush will teach us all this, what we're talking about.
Flush totally will teach you all this. You're going to learn and you're going to watch. It's crazy. It's super, super fun. So here, where were you going to go?
Yeah. I think you actually watched this video where, we were talking about looking at money in a different way. And you come from a town that was small. I come from a city that's not too big. And imagine this river and imagine there's fish in it and you got a small river. Chances of catching 1,000 fish a day are very limited because it's a small river. But if you go to this big Amazon river or you go to the Mississippi, the more fish in a bigger river, right? So when I look at the stock market here in South Africa is just another one of the 190 some odd countries in the world. The stock market's here, but it's like any other small third world country, okay? There's only so much money flowing in it. Yeah. Now, when you look in the crypto market, stock markets close at 3 p.m. most of the time. They open at 9 a.m. There's only so much that goes. When you look at something like Binance, the largest exchange in the world, okay? Now, the other day, when I say the other day, okay, let's rewind. About a year or two ago, there was only 6,000 cryptos available on CoinMarketCap. Today, there's 20,300 cryptos. Okay, that tells you how the market's increasing. Then you go and look at exchanges. There's 506 exchanges just listed on CoinMarketCap. There might be more that are not listed. Okay, now Binance is just one exchange, and the traffic, the money that's flowing on there. Okay, here
30 to 50 billion, 30.
Yeah, here's a video.
So, like in 2021. We traded $34 trillion equivalent of crypto. Can you repeat? Yeah, so $34 trillion equivalent in crypto in 2021. This year, so far, I think we're about the same. Later on, maybe.
But as cryptocurrencies are going down, so you will trade maybe more transaction with lesser value.
So when this high volatility, like yesterday, I just checked this morning because somebody asked me this morning. Yesterday we traded 120 billion. Yesterday, which is quite high. On a flat day is like 30, 50 billion. The highest day we had so far was like close to.
So you can imagine with somebody who is trading so much money, it is. I will.
Yeah, but you got to remember what was like maybe last month. It was Binance's 5th birthday. Binance is 5 years old.
Exactly.
That's
The guy is
insane.
doing.
That's insane. This guy 6 years ago, Binance
Did not
wasn't an
exist.
idea. Now he did 34 trillion. So it goes to show, as you said, time in the market. So I think this time and where this project is going to be so helpful, it's going to allow people, because we are so early in the phase. We have the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. This space is going to exponentially grow. Take this time to learn how to be smart, how to do some research. Don't buy the chibi floki, weird, with all these weird things, this meme coin, man, this crazy thing. Stop doing that. Just stop it. Stop it. Like, what I mean? If you got like $100 and
You need one of those memes where you give them one slap on their face.
You're just simply walking into a casino and say, hey, listen, I already have a significant network. I'm going to throw $100 into a slot machine. I don't care if I lose it. Sure. You want to do it just for a joke, just for an entertainment, but don't put your rent on it. Don't be like, my bro thinks this is the next thing, and like take money off your family's table to do that. But people are doing that. I'm not even kidding. People are doing some really dumb things. And it's just this crypto bro mentality is really wrecking people's lives. And everyone's smart when it goes up, and everyone's blaming the economy when it goes down. No one wants to admit they're dumb both ways. And that's okay. You got lucky and you don't know what you're doing. You made money and you lost it all. Why? Because you didn't know what you were doing the whole time. You got lucky. When the Fed printed money into the system, everyone got lucky. Sorry, like there's not a lot of really brilliant people cashed out a lot on the way up, and then they waited.
Maybe even though the halving happens in 2024, and if the Feds don't pump more money into the system, maybe there won't be such a big bull run. And
that's a whole nother topic.
No, I know. You're right. There was so much stimulus money coming at that same time.
Yeah, exactly. So, we might see another year of where they might just do tightening and, things kind of go sideways, chop around. And once they start easing, then the money's gone. When they publicly say we're putting money into the economy, we're going to do some easing, bull runs back on. There you go. Let's go. And in that time, let's learn. Let's take some time. And here's where the thing is. And I think we should probably wrap this up pretty quick here. So what we want to do is we have that icebreaker. We have that fun. We're a cartoon. We're exciting. We're different. We're engaging. We're having the NFTs. We're trying to bring a whole level to financial literacy that nobody's doing. No one's making the full story. But in our case, where if we get into maybe some of these other countries where some people very influential in the country say, hey, listen, let's go and let's try to distribute this to the kids. Let's try to the young adults. Let's get this out to people. Now people have further questions and they want to get information from somebody that's done an MIT course on what is money. Somebody wants to enter a seminar from somebody that has credentials from the Sailor Academy, somebody that's read, the Bitcoin Standard. If somebody wants to be able to get further education, that's not our specialty. We are not going to, as toilet paper hens, be the people that are going to, give all these courses, but we're going to connect with other credible content providers. We want to be able to be the hub of good qualified information from multiple streams of credible, verified, certifiable people that this is valid education. This is relevant. So we want to be able to bring the attention. It's like we're trying to say, hey, come here, enjoy, let's enjoy learning. And now if somebody wants to open up that curtain a little bit more, sure. Then they can go to Global Institute of Wealth. They can go talk to you. They can, we hope to partner with some other, we're in talks with some very, very other big, credible, influential people in the crypto education space. And in time, we want to be able to get into it. In time, we want to be able to get into where you're just going to be able to walk into Tradesville in the metaverse and walk around and learn through VR. These are all steps. But what we need to do is we need to take this time and we need to say, guys, if you don't know what money is, learn. Because if I didn't know about, I'm 40 now, and you said you were kind of both of you and I in March of 2020, we were put into this. What do we do now? What is our option? I got out of 2 decades of oil and gas. You got out of your industry that you'd spent quite a while of time, and that was what you knew. We didn't know this. And I think just a simple education, no one's making it fun, and that's what we're doing. So yeah, we're really excited. We're going to have our first call to action coming up here probably pretty quick. I'd say within a month, we're going to have the first episode. We're going to have the learning management system. We're going to have an open round of funding ready. If some people want to see the value into this, the education sector is a very, very booming sector. There's a lot of opportunity. There's not a lot of people doing this in the way we are. So those are going to be, if somebody's a credible content provider like yourself, like the value that you bring is going to help add value. And if we can bring more eyes, we're going to bring value. We're all in the network in this position of let's merge communities. Let's start talking. Let's start working together. It's not like Chase is going to knock out JP Morgan or you know what I mean? All this stuff.
That's like a narrow mindset. I understand.
Yeah, totally. And we're not like that. We're absolutely open to any conversation. So like if somebody wants to hit me on my LinkedIn, it's Randy Kujawa.
I'll put the links below. I'll put all the
Yeah. If somebody wants to partner and say, hey man, like I want to understand. Tell me more about this. Like obviously you'll have the links down here, but check us out. Like I said, we're really
and as soon as you guys launch, I think we'll invite you guys again onto the podcast, and we'll do a deep dive. We'll check it out.
Yeah, like I'd love to play I'd like to play the episode. For all these things, we're gonna have so much more going on, but these are great opportunities, and and LinkedIn's a great way. And how I met you through Paige and Edward there with Connector.
Yeah, right.
That's how, and they got great tech going on. There's a lot of great people doing a lot. I listened to your podcast with the lady from the Lebanese. Yeah. That was a great podcast. I really liked her view on just on the gaming, just on the education.
She was really sharp, like coming from a university background, being a lecturer.
Super sharp. I'd love to talk to people like her. There's a lot of very intelligent people that understand what's going on. And we're early in the space. Everyone's like, okay, I got this project, I got to cash out in the next 3 months. Don't be that dude that spent 10,000 Bitcoin on 2 pizzas. You know what I mean?
But don't be the guy who sold his Apple shares when iPhone 3 came out.
yeah, but that's called the journey, man. That's just called, and money isn't real. It's a thing, and it's all a part of the process. And why not learn mistakes? Yeah, who cares? Sometimes you need to feel pain to be like, you need to put your hand in a trap and go, ow, I don't want to do that again. Sometimes you need to get smacked on the hand and just go, ouch, okay, well, I won't do that. That's okay. It's called life. Life's about struggles. Life's about pain. Life's about learning. Life's about growth. But it doesn't always have to be so bad if we learn through somebody else. Learn through these guys.
Yeah.
They're pretty badass.
I like that guy's sunglasses.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
True. Yeah, his voice is pretty awesome too. So yeah, anyways, that's it. I just it's been a great chat, and I look forward to seeing what's what future development comes between us, and so it's exciting.
As you said, you know what? If you have this charitable mindset or this helping mindset or give goodness out, then it bounces back. Okay, I mean, if you speak to Paige or Eduardo, and they had a great podcast with me, and at the end of the day, no one makes money directly from the podcast. But it's just having good conversations with like-minded people throughout the world. And I really, the other day, I told this to my sister-in-law. I said, when you start having a podcast, you realize every person could have their own podcast just for their own learning. So I say my nephews, okay, every youngster has a passion. He should just start a podcast.
Yeah,
Speaking to people in that industry, that is his passion. Okay. And what would happen as a youngster? It's not about the listeners, it's not about the followers, but people would come on your podcast and you'd be talking to relevant people in that industry. And all that will happen is you'd become what you say, authenticated, or you'd gain firsthand information.
Well, it's great. Education's everything. I came across a post the other day where somebody was talking about this guy that has 30,000 books, and somebody's like, "Are you ever going to read these books?" And the guy's like, "No, it's impossible. I will never read all these books." But it's a reminder to myself that no matter how much I learn, it's scratching the surface on what I could learn. So there's always learning, and it's like, if I had to take the conglomeration of all of some of the wisdom that I've taken from all the successful people that are, later on in life, they say the value that when you're an older person is your network. It's not, your network when you're an 18-year-old kid. It's when you're like 50, 60 years old. It's that good network of people you've met through your whole life that's the value. You're like, something happens, you're like, actually, I know a guy that knows, you know what I mean? It's that good network of people you meet over the decades, over 20, 30, 40, 50 years. That's the thing that's really going to help your life. So let's not take the weight off the value of a relationship, a friendship, and a network connection. Are we going to hang off this podcast and money's going to flow into our account? No. But we don't know. But it's having these conversations. You don't know what door is going to open. You don't know what it is, but you got to be open to conversations. You got to be open to everyone's point of view. And just networking, especially in this space, we all got to hear each other. We all bring value in different aspects. And I'm glad we're not another layer one. We're not an Ethereum killer. We're something so different. We're education and a cartoon. So many opportunities. We can get on big streaming networks. We can get into private public school systems. We can get in homes. We can get into multiple countries and get into multiple languages. It's fun for everyone. You open the learning management system. You can have a Michael Saylor course. You can have an MIT course, or you can have a thing for an 8-year-old to play a game where everyone can learn. Like, that's super cool. We live in this era where that phone makes learning for everyone through one management system, through one learning system. We can all benefit. And that's one of the values that we're going to bring that's not really out there yet in this space. So
I love it. I want to thank you for your time today. Thanks for coming on to our podcast. Once it's posted, you're going to share it with your network.
100%. Some people are going to be like, "Man, you talk a lot, Randy," but that's okay. So, this is what I do. This is it. And
finally found someone that talks more than me.
Yeah, if you and I lived in the same city, we would never get anything done.
Nah, I'm just teasing.
Let's go hang out and chat. Yeah.
Let's call it a day. And thank you so much for your time.
Sounds great.
And we're going to have you back as soon as you guys launch your product.
Yeah, for sure. And then if you guys want to go, check out toiletpaperhands.com. Boom. Here we go. I'm trying to get on the screen there. And and obviously all the links will be below. So hit me up on LinkedIn and Randy Kujawa. And
thank you so much, Randy. Thank you for your time.